All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Darren After the Credits, except Darren will not be talking very much. It is I, Taz, here, with Darth and Darren. How are you guys doing? Doing well?
I'm
Doing
doing
well?
great. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Someone else, not so
Yes.
well.
Yeah, so we're going to try not to let Darren talk too much. He's still recovering, but he's still here with us. So how's everybody in chat doing? Are we having a good day? Having a good start to the week? Watch anything good this week? I know I've been continuing my Dexter watch. I'm already, hello, one Marvel fan, already on to season 2. Show's getting really good. Show's getting really good. In a weird way, I feel like the show could have ended with season 1, and I kind of would have been happy in a weird way. But I'm glad that there are 8 seasons, a sequel series, a prequel series, and a sequel series that eventually we'll get to, I'm sure. But we had a big week as far as TV shows go. We had our Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, as well as Invincible Season 3, Episode 4. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I guess this was technically the penultimate week, not necessarily a penultimate episode. We got another 3 this week. Next week's going to be the finale, and for Invincible, we're kind of in the middle of the season. So I guess how are we feeling before we kind of talk about everything? How are we feeling at this point? We're at kind of, like I said, the halfway point for Invincible. We're approaching the end of the season for Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Darth, I know that you have not caught up completely with Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, but kind of tell us a little bit about how you're feeling about the show right now. I know you have an opinion that I definitely had at the beginning of the show as well.
This is I annoyingly love like a lot of the choices. Like the fact that he's got like a gas propellant little canister at the back of his suit because
Yeah.
he's just literally finding everything in the trash and it's all from his genius. I love his super like cartoony retro look.
Mm.
Um, love what they're doing with Lonnie. Um, Interesting that they got rid of Uncle Ben like super early. You know what I mean? They're changing
Mm-hmm.
that, which
Yeah.
is
I
I'm
didn't love that.
interested to see
I
where he
didn't love
gets
that
his.
he died before Peter got his powers. I think that throws off the whole point in a way. But yeah, continue.
So I'm interested to see where he gets like the responsibility drive. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, the speech is going to come from May,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
thanks, baby. But like, in what instance, right? Because she's obviously not going to go anywhere. He's not going to be left fully on his own. Um, I like everything. I love the world building that they're bringing in with like Amadeus show. The
Mm-hmm.
second that we saw, um, ah, the woman that went, I think it was like aerospace or something, like the Wakandan
Yeah.
scientist.
Yeah.
Love that. I saw the the beads. I forget
Mm-hmm.
what they're called again. I can I think that's like before. Um, but yeah, the beat. I was like, yeah, that she's Wakandan, so that's really cool. And then Doctor Strange, like everything. And the only thing that's ruining it is the animation is really throwing me off. Really, really throwing me off, and I'm hoping that I can look past it with enough time rewatching it. Um,
I I
have
actually
to
have grown to love the animation style. I think yes, it's a more simplistic design, but it's very unique, and I guess unique in a good way. I feel like this is kind of like the TV variation or the TV version of Spider-Verse animation. We've kind of talked about it a little bit, but it is very much
in what
so
way?
uh, the fact that it looks like a comic book come to life. Like it's not
Mm,
as intricately detailed as Spider-Verse, but again, it's a more kind of simplified, more streamlined version of it. Yes, angles are very, simplistic and things like that. However, there's different camera angles, just the way that the characters and stuff move. As you progress into the season, you'll see some really, really cool fight scenes. There was one this week that I absolutely loved that we'll get to when we get into talking about these episodes. But I think the animation was not something that I had a big issue with at the beginning. I think that was actually one of the things I really enjoyed from those first full of episodes. But as the season progressed, I saw them really kind of come into their own with that animation style, and it made sense as to why they chose a style like that because they're paying homage to the history of Spider-Man, all of the different Spider-Man projects that have come before. You see at the beginning of every episode, they replicate a very iconic comic book page or a comic book cover. I think one of them this week was actually Spider-Man No More, which was pretty cool as well. But yeah, I think that the animation, yes, it is. Again, it can be looked at as simplistic, but I think it is an artistic choice, and the reason why it is as simple as it is to be able to do these very unique camera movements and, show these big action set pieces without, having it break the bank. So if it doesn't look as polished as, say, something like, X-Men 97 or, even some of the older Spider-Man animated series like, Spectacular or Ultimate, I think that that's a trade-off that I'm willing to make for again the artistic vision of the show to shine through that.
I mean,
I
just to,
sorry, go on.
no, like I was just gonna say because I shared the same opinion for like week one. It was like that was the
Hmm.
downfall for me. I didn't like it. And then week two, I was like, okay, like I'm not noticing it as much. And this week, like we ended the episode, and I was like, oh, I didn't even notice. Like I'm so into it now and the stories that it does just kind of feel like you're reading a comic book or like what's it called, the like visual comic or like a like an audio comic, just like like put to screen. So I'll be curious what you think as you kind of get further into the show to see kind of
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I get what you mean, but I genuinely just find it off-putting at the moment. It's not like I'm like actively trying to dislike it or something. It's just like
Hmm.
a genuine reaction to what I'm seeing. It's just like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I get
Um,
that. I get that. I think my critiques of the show are more so minor nitpicks as far as the storytelling goes and why we're at certain points already. Like I said, the Uncle Ben death before Peter gets his powers, I think that's an odd choice. I think the fact that Peter got bit by an interdimensional spider and we're already adding in this like multiversal stuff with Doctor Strange, the deeper ties to what was originally an MCU project, those are still very present and relevant, and you'll see more and more of them as the show continues. So you can definitely tell that there are remnants of when this project was supposed to be a Tom Holland Spider-Man prequel. I think the fact that a lot of the characters also are modeled after their MCU counterparts definitely doesn't set it apart from that as much as it should. But again, I think the deeper you get into the show, the more you're going to realize, oh, this is its own thing. It is, trying to be its own project while again paying homage to the, vast Spider-Man mythos that has come before it. So I'm interested to see what you think, going into these next few episodes. Is there anything that you've heard that you're excited for, or
Nothing. I've not heard anything about this. No one's talking about this around me.
really?
Like
Okay.
nobody. No one's watching it. No one's talking about it. The only reason I'm even giving it somewhat of a chance is because you guys are watching it, and even more so that you guys seem to be really enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the
So
deeper you get into
I'm
it,
not
the
someone
more.
to stand in my own way. So I
Yeah.
will give it a go.
All right. All right. I think, like I said, the deeper you get into it, the more you're going to enjoy it. Something I do have pulled up that I want us to take a look at before we get into actually talking about the episodes from this week. There was another Daredevil Born Again teaser. So I'm gonna actually pull that up right now.
I do like.
Boom.
I had a quick look at how many episodes there were. We're on like 8, and then every
Yeah.
thumbnail seemed to be a new costume.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that I can live with.
Yeah.
That seems cool.
Yeah, no, it is. Again, is the more that the show changes and evolves over time, it definitely comes into its own. And I think it really finds its identity after like beginning of week or end of week 2, beginning of week 3. I think again, these episodes that we just got this week were the best batch of episodes from throughout the whole series so far, and that's why I'm really excited for that finale. So here,
That
little
guy trying to burn the house down.
yeah, yeah. His villains get a little crazier. His villains get a little crazier. Small little Daredevil teaser, really quick before we get into everything. I think it's like a 30-second teaser. I'll shut up and let it play.
Boss, my name is Matthew Murdoch.
There's no further comment at this stage.
I'm a lawyer.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Exactly what kind of a lawyer are you? Really good one. Vigilantes are not heroes. Yeah. Daredevil, boss. My name is.
So yeah, just a little small little snippets, a little teaser. I think we got a lot of stuff that yes we've seen before, but also some very new shots as well. I think this one more so focuses on the Matt Murdock aspect of it all. We've gotten a lot of Daredevil, a lot of showing the brutality of the fights and everything coming back, but this one more so focuses on the human side of the character. And I think I'm going to be very interested to see where they take kind of the courtroom drama of it all. I think that was, in a lot of ways, one of the best aspects of the Netflix series. So I'm excited to see where they take it in this show. Again, it's a continuation, soft reboot, but it's a season 1 of a new show. It's not Daredevil season 4. So I'm definitely again excited to see where they go with this. We're very close now. When does it say it's coming out? March 4th. And it is a 2-episode premiere. I don't know if that is new information or we already knew that was going to be a thing. But yeah, 2-episode premiere March 4th. Darren, what are you guys thinking?
I don't think we knew it was a 2-episode premiere until now.
Okay.
Which,
Yeah, that's yeah, I thought it was new too.
So, which I'm not complaining about because it is a 9-episode series. So we'll still get 7 weeks of the show.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah, I'm
Who's
excited.
that acrobatic adversary? Who do we think that is? Or do we know who that is?
Was that potentially was that White Tiger maybe?
Was it in the white suit?
I don't
Because
know
they
because
were
it
in the
was
trailer.
he was jumping off the rooftop, hitting whoever this guy is. So that's Matt, obviously, but I don't know who this masked man is. I don't think we see any other shots. I know there was one. I don't know if it was a full-on teaser trailer or it was just a new picture, but I know there was something new with White Tiger recently. But again, looking at this suit though too, this suit is so good. Literally all it's missing is the DD on the chest, and that's it.
Does look more bare than it used to though. I think it's just like its chest feels more bare than it used to, I guess.
It looks more simplistic. It looks I think they took out like a lot of those like angular lines and stuff that I don't love on suits. Like it was basically the thing that I was criticizing the most on the new Superman suit was it looked like an MCU suit with all those lines. But this is a lot more streamlined, a lot more simple, and it looks a lot more, comic accurate. But yeah, no, it looks good. It looks really good, and we got that shot again of all the helmets too, which technically ties into Spider-Man, because if I can find it again, because we did see a different suit this week
So,
as well.
given like the MCU's propensity to repeat themselves in both themes and everything else, do you think that they will revisit the Sokovia Accords in a new name, in a new fashion, right? In that,
In Born Again?
yeah, right, because Kingpin's talking about how vigilantes aren't heroes, right? And then there might
Yeah.
need to be like a clear distinction, because obviously, as much as Spider-Man nearly did kill Green Goblin, he's not a Punisher type. Do you know
Right.
what I mean? And there is a clear line that he is not a vigilante; he is a hero.
Mhm.
Versus somebody like well, Luke Cage is arguable because he does it for hire. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think that
Um,
definitely does bring up an interesting point. It's something that they actually somewhat brought up in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man as well. Like I said, there were a lot of MCU ties, and one of those was the Sokovia Accords. Like it's happening kind of parallel with Civil War, and that's kind of where it is in the timeline. But think about it as its own, alt universe history. So it's basically an extended what if is kind of what we've decided on. But they mentioned the Sokovia Accords. I think this is all not this week's episodes, but the previous week's episodes. Where that came up as kind of a larger topic, and Spider-Man was like, what do I do about this kind of superhero registration thing, and Norman's kind of like, hey, let me handle that. So yeah, it is interesting that yes, we're gonna have obviously this world of very public superheroes, but then also you're gonna have your Daredevils and your Punishers and things like that. While Punisher, yes, is public, if the events of the Netflix series still are canon to this, yes, people know it's Frank Castle because he literally was, in court, in prison, got out, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that would definitely bring up an interesting debate as far as, who is right, who is wrong. Is Daredevil no better than the Punisher, even if, he's not killing people? Are they still as big of an issue and a problem and a threat, you know, to the city? And that, I guess, is something that Kingpin is going to have to deal with as well if he's, mayor. So,
yeah,
I
because
think
do we think like White Tiger might be out there killing people? Like
potentially.
there's gonna
Yeah.
be Matt trying to stay on the path of light or whatever, and then
yeah.
White Tiger being the villain, and then causing a problem for Matt in the process, maybe.
Yeah.
Because then
Darren,
he'd
go
have to
ahead.
fight it both in court. He have to sue the mayor to try and
Yeah.
stop that happening.
And what I think could be fun is, like, obviously he's going after the vigilantes. Matt might honestly agree, right? Like, I think that they might be in a very interesting spot where it's like, I don't like you, you're after me as well, but you're not entirely wrong about these vigilantes. They're getting out of control. We need to stop most of them,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be a fun, which is why they're teaming up in the show comparatively to fighting each other, which could be fun.
Right. And I think maybe too, like the dilemma of who is to say who is a good vigilante and who is a bad vigilante. Like
Right.
just because you're a vigilante out there that doesn't have a problem with killing people, like does that inherently make you a bad guy? And then that's the Frank Castle of it all, right? He kills people that deserve it, for a lack of a better term. Whereas Daredevil, yes, he'll take it far as the brutality and that kind of thing, but he won't bring himself to end it, even if that person, again, quote unquote, deserves it. And that, I guess, is going to be another kind of moral dilemma. I know, going back to one of the earlier trailers as well, is he basically said something along the lines of, he crossed a line, right? You can't unring the bell at that point. So I guess going back to that original question, now after seeing more teasers and stuff like that, do we think Matt crosses that line that, he tried not to in those previous seasons? It was the whole crux of season 3. He had the opportunity to kill Kingpin, but he didn't, because that would make him no better than the villain he was trying to defeat. What do you guys think?
What if it's one of those ones where he genuinely had no control over it, but then he's still gonna beat himself up over it anyway?
Maybe like he accidentally killed somebody, or he led to somebody's death and he couldn't save them, and he's now blaming himself for that. That's a possibility. Yeah. That's a possibility. And maybe you have, Frank in one ear just being like, he got what he deserved, and then, you have the other side of things where he's like, no, like I, went against my code, for a lack of a better term. So, yeah,
like he was fighting somebody and they got hit by traffic, and then bang.
right.
Oh, it was
or
my
like
fault.
or like he threw his club at him. They fell over something and fell off a roof, or something like that. Right?
Yeah.
Is like he didn't intentionally try to kill somebody, but they ended up dying. I think that would be a very, very interesting moral dilemma. And I guess then that would be Matt kind of doing some soul searching and trying to figure out, okay, who is he? Like, is he still that hero that we saw in those first 3 seasons with those rules, with that code? Or now that that has happened, is he willing to take things a step further because he's already crossed that line? Or I guess in the other aspect of that is, now that he's crossed that line, it's easier to continue to stay on that other side of it. So he needs to reel himself back in even more. And then maybe that has made him maybe sloppy, for lack of a better term, as far as like maybe he's not treating the criminals as harshly as he did, be out of fear that he might kill again.
See, my thing as well is like the fact that he's the mayor, like he's included in like a whole bunch of new power, and if he is as meticulous as we all know he would be, considering that he took over the prison and everything, like he is a mastermind of strategy. He would have all of his proxy gangs like taking care of everything while he did everything like through the right channels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it'd be incredibly difficult to catch him out doing anything.
Oh yeah. I think the fact that Kingpin is now mayor, it almost borderline makes him untouchable, in the eyes of Daredevil. But I think that is going to be, again, also the moral dilemma. Like, is he is Kingpin doing things that are actually benefiting the city? Like, is he an actual good mayor? Like, is he helping people? But again, that moral dilemma is Matt knows what he's done in the past, what he's capable of potentially doing in the future as the kingpin of crime. Like, so I think that again, it plays a very, very fine line between right and wrong as far as that goes. So any final thoughts on this before we fully jump into the Spider-Man episodes for the week?
No.
Okay.
No.
Darren, anything? Alrighty. Trailer done.
Speaking of Spider-Man, did we ever find out what that symbiote was attached to at the start of all of everything?
I have absolutely no clue. In a weird way, didn't it kind of look like a mech?
I was thinking like a Craven kind of person.
That's a possibility as well. I think that's something maybe we'll get a little bit of a teaser for at the end of the season. But, we got 2 episodes left, so we shall see.
Can you
But
imagine if they just do nothing with that Doctor Strange bit or the multiverse again?
I wouldn't put it past them because we already know it's going to be a 3 season arc. So that might be something that's not even addressed again until season 2, tail end of season 2, maybe even season 3. And then Peter's like, "Oh, I remember that thing." So I think that's definitely a possibility, but I think the smart move would be at least give us a little bit of a teaser at the end of this season.
I think we will, because we got Doctor Strange inside the trailer. So I think we get a little bit more of Doctor Strange at least.
Oh, there's more from the trailers that we haven't seen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Oh,
Cool.
thank
So
God.
then Doctor Strange's return confirmed. So this week was another batch of 3 episodes. I think that these again were maybe the strongest of the 3 that we've gotten so far because it dealt with a lot of kind of the moral dilemma that we always see Peter dealing with between trying to balance his life as Peter Parker and balance his job and his obligation and his responsibility as Spider-Man. So first episode was kind of Peter trying to get Harry and Nico to become closer friends. They have this little gathering and everything like that. Peter gets called away because somebody breaks into Oscorp, and the person who broke into Oscorp was, surprise, surprise, the Devil of Hell's Kitchen himself, voiced by Charlie Cox, Daredevil. And I've been talking about this all week. That fight scene was so good. I'm so glad that when they released it, I didn't watch it online. Like seeing it in the actual episode itself, hearing that banter back and forth between the two of them, the fact that Daredevil was basically just toying with Spider-Man. He was like, hey kid, there are bigger things at play here than you understand right now.
Yeah.
And just kind of take it for what it is, and just know that I am on a complete different level, basically. And just the visualization of Matt's abilities, kind of, the sonar and everything like that. Yes, the Daredevil theme. Yes, the theme. It was so good. And again, it makes me question as far as, do I like the fact that it is something completely separate, that it's kind of its own what if story, that it's an Elseworld sort of thing, or would I have wanted this to be tied to the MCU? Because think about how interesting that would have been if in the early days of Spider-Man, like, we knew that Tom Holland's Peter Parker interacted with Daredevil in one way or another. I think that would have been cool, but I still do. I'm in that camp of, I like the fact that it is separate while we are still bringing in elements from the MCU that we know and love. So Daredevil cameo, absolutely amazing. Moving into the next episode, that was the big one that everybody was talking about, with the big kind of Scorpion showdown. We got the most brutal scene in pretty much any Spider-Man media ever. We had Scorpion literally just impale a dude and like stick him to the ceiling. Like, it was kind of crazy.
Scorpion did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was kind of the culmination of where all this tech is coming from. So there's a big mystery, is like all of these villains are getting tech from some source. We, throughout the last few weeks, have known that Doc Ock is actually the source of these pieces of tech that are falling into the villains' hands and everything like that. Scorpion has the most kind of advanced. He's got his whole kind of mech suit and everything like that. He goes after Lonnie's gang. He's officially being called Tombstone now. He's, living up to that name. He is very much so committed to it, even though it's causing his entire life around him to collapse. Like, he got kicked off the football team. He's kind of at odds with his family. He has to kind of make a decision too between now his found family and his real family and friends. He's like, hey, I have to stay committed to this. These people are the people that I connect with now, and he goes full force into it. He, ends his relationship with Pearl, which is very interesting too. He definitely, it seems like he obviously didn't want to, but again, the fact that he has now been kind of, brought into this gang, they kind of see him in a different light than everybody else. You can definitely see the appeal for him. He came from a very structured background where, go to school, football practice, that sort of thing. But he's found this new kind of crew that he clicks with, I guess, for a lack of a better term. We also do get not our first appearance. I believe we saw him in the previous batch of episodes as well, but he actually had the kind of comic book mask on and everything. Chameleon, so we're definitely building out that, vast rogues gallery as far as Spider-Man villains go. But big culmination of this episode, Scorpion fight. Peter thinks that he can take him out. He actually does end up webbing him up and everything like that. But Scorpion is too strong. He breaks out of it, and just goes to town and absolutely destroys Spider-Man. Destroys the suit. Peter gets stabbed with the tail, and he just nearly makes it out alive. And the only way that he got out alive, big thing, Norman sends, surprise, surprise, the Green Goblin glider to go grab him and take him back to Oscorp. Very, very cool way to end that episode. I think that episode 2 was probably, again, the biggest as far as action set pieces go, as far as setting up ideas for the future. Norman is already working on Green Goblin tech. Spider-Man has some big foes out there that he is not necessarily prepared for yet, both physically and mentally. And then that brings us into the final episode where Peter's kind of recovering and everything like that. He has a big heart-to-heart with Norman, talking about kind of a spin on the classic, with great power comes great responsibility. We have, with great power comes great respect, from Norman. And that was something that I'm not sure how I feel about it. However, in the context of the show, it makes sense. It shows us that Norman views things from a little bit of a different perspective than an Uncle Ben would, than, a standard mentor for Peter would. Is he believes that because Peter has these abilities, because he has these powers, that he shouldn't hold back in instances like when he fought Scorpion. And that just goes against everything that, we know about Spider-Man. It goes against everything that Peter was originally taught. But he believes that in order to continue working with his idol, to continue working with Norman, to continue getting all this tech and everything and all this assistance, that maybe he has to be a little bit more, I guess, on edge, a little bit more brutal, that sort of thing. What do we think he's making the gear for? Green Goblin stuff, just in case Peter can't hack it, I feel like is really the best way to put it. And I think we kind of saw it, is he gave him an ultimatum, for a lack of a better term, was basically like, hey, fully commit to being Spider-Man, become the best version of yourself, and, get yourself back out there, or we can't continue to work together. And that was a very big struggle for Peter in that final episode this week. And that all culminates at the end. Before we get there, we have, again, another little side plot with Harry and Nico. I think that was very cool because at the end of the day, it got us to see her amulet actually light up, give her some abilities. As they were, racing the car through the streets of New York. I thought that was very cool. I can't tell if Nico actually understood what was happening there or if she even noticed. But I think that is, again, some really good setup for probably season 2, where she might end up fully joining Team Spider-Man. Now, end of the episode. Harry is there with
What's
Peter.
her power, sorry?
What was that?
What's her power?
So she is a character from Runaways.
She's magic.
Right.
She has like a
Yeah.
magic staff.
Yeah, she's like a magic staff and everything like that. Let me see actually what her
And they
powers
reference
really are.
I haven't read it, but they reference in the prequel comic that she had left where she was in the like Runaway show. So
Okay.
it's not confirmed she has her powers, but it seems like maybe they're teasing it potentially.
Yeah. Dark magic. Nico's body can absorb magical weapons and remove them from her mother's control. Nico's magic can be chaotic and unpredictable. Uses the Staff of One, which is considered the most powerful weapon in existence. Nico's powers bend to her will, preventing her from hurting an ally or healing an enemy. Interesting. So I don't know a ton about her background. Just again, she's got a magical staff. So it seems like this amulet has something to do with it. Maybe they're changing it up slightly so she doesn't have a staff. She just channels her magic through that amulet. But yeah, that's going to be very interesting. Again, going into these last couple of episodes, I don't know how much deeper we're going to dive into it. However, the end of the episode, we have, again, Peter still healing up from the events of the previous episode, getting his butt kicked by Scorpion. He's chilling up in the office with Harry, and Harry's like, hey, I had some of the guys work on stuff for you. We looked at your sketches and everything like that, and we made a new suit because the suit got destroyed in the fight with Scorpion. We don't actually get to see the suit in the episode, but we see it reflecting off of his glasses. And we see the red and blue being reflected in there, so we know that it's that classic comic book suit. Do we think too many people are learning his identity too fast? I think he has the identity keeping skills of Barry from seasons 1 through 3.
Yeah. Speaking of suits, right? So, have you seen the Green Goblin yet?
We have not seen the Green Goblin. The first real
Right.
tease we got was that glider coming in.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah, so do you think that that's really for Norman, or do you think he was maybe making it for his son?
My whole thing,
yeah, go for it.
was like, what Green Goblin do you think we're gonna get, right? Because do you think we're gonna get him in an armored suit, or do you think we're gonna get something more like reminiscent of the '90s suit, where it's just like fabric and hits?
Oh no, it's gonna be
armored.
It's gonna be armored for sure. If
Oh, really?
if the suit montage from earlier, if the way that all of the villains have been so far too. So Norman and Doc Ock used to work together in this universe. They used to be scientist buddies basically. And again, if Doc Ock is any indication, if any of those suits that he's made are any indication, I think it's going to be something along those lines. Yeah, Darren, I do think we talked about this a little bit ago as well, is that maybe Norman is making the Green Goblin stuff specifically for Harry, just in case either Spider-Man turns on them, meaning Spider-Man figures out what their real intentions are and they need to put a stop to them, or maybe it's a little bit of a nicer intention at the beginning, like, oh, maybe we'll give Harry a suit and then he can be out there in the field with Spider-Man. Think about how cool it would be potentially to season 2. We have Peter in the classic Spider-Man suit. We have Harry in the Green Goblin suit, or maybe he ends up being Hobgoblin to start out with. And then Nico with her magic and everything like that. And then by season 3, since again, this is going to be a 3-season arc or a 3-season plan, by season 3, that is when we get full-on Norman Osborn, Green Goblin. Something happens, maybe Harry gets injured, or Peter finds out about all of the kind of like sketchy stuff that Norman's been planning. And that's how we have that rivalry really begin. Maybe Norman becomes Iron Patriot and Harry becomes Green Goblin. That would be very interesting as well. He has been working with Thunderbolt Ross too, so That would be very interesting. I think that that's a very good theory, Jonathan. I do like that. I do like that. Darth, any more theories, any more thoughts before I pull up a little teaser for the 2-part finale?
No, smash it.
Okay. Darren, you
had
got
that-
anything?
We had that cool Iron Man cameo as well. Which was
Yes,
very nice.
yes. Iron Man came in,
Oh.
swooped in, saved the day, stopped Doc Ock as he was running out.
He
And
made it off
again,
the dashboard.
yeah, and again, designed very similarly. It looks like Robert Downey Jr., but the suit looked really good. The suit looked
Yeah.
like an old classic, Iron Man suit, which was great. Jeffrey here, just like in the games, Norman and Doc Ock work together at first in the PS5 games. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. I love the PS5 games, or PS4 and PS5 games. But yeah, that's a cool connection. That
It's
is a
really
very cool
cool
connection.
too to see the in-universe connection to the Soviet Accords.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like
Yeah.
we never really got to see that before. It was always just like, it affected Endgame and Avengers and they split up.
Mhm.
But we don't ever see the real life consequences of the
Yeah, it
heroes
is.
working for the government, which is cool.
Yeah, it is. It is very cool, and it's interesting too to see how Norman is trying to get on the government's good side. And he's playing both sides of it because he's hiding things from the government as far as he didn't give them Peter's real identity. He gave them the identity of one of the guards, actually a security guard that we saw in that first episode after Daredevil appeared, is who they're saying Spider-Man is. But he's also, again, getting the information that he needs and working as closely with them as he possibly needs to, again, eventually get exactly what he wants. But here we have it. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Don't miss the 2-episode finale on Wednesday. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is now streaming only on Disney+. What do we think of the first look at the classic suit? Can we make it any bigger? There we go. A little bit bigger. What do we think?
There we go.
Yeah. What do we think? I think it looks great. It actually kind of looks like the it looks like a mix of the Spectacular suit, the classic Ditko suit, and the MCU suit, just because of the eyes. But I do love it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think they've done well. I think they've done very well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it in action. I'm excited to see it moving. But yeah, I'm really excited for this finale. Like I said, I didn't love those first 2 episodes. I was intrigued, but I didn't love it. Second week, they had my attention. This week, I'm all hands on deck. I'm very, very excited to see where things go in this finale. And see how they set up for that next season. Again, how many elements from the beginning do they bring back? Yes, we're supposed to see Doctor Strange again. How much further into the multiverse idea do we go? Do we get any explanation as to what was going on with that symbiote? Are we going to potentially get, the symbiote suit for season 2, or is that going to be a season 3 thing? What's going on with Norman? What's going on with Harry? That sort of thing. Jeffrey, really good point. The question is, what does Osborn want? I think he said exactly what he wanted this week, and that is to have great power and great respect. Now, he already kind of has that as far as, being a big business tycoon. But you live in a world with all of these superheroes. You have Civil War happening. You have the Sokovia Accords happening. You're just a rich business guy. What can you do to defend yourself, to defend your business, to defend your family, to defend your intellectual property and your technology and that sort of thing? I think he wants to not only be looked at as one of the top scientists in the world, one of the top businessmen in the world, but I think he also kind of wants to be, I guess, respected so much that he's feared. I think that's probably what he's looking for as well. He's kind of, again, it sounds like, world domination kind of thing, but I think it's on a little bit of a smaller scale than that. I think it boils down to maybe he feels slightly insecure being a normal person in a world full of superheroes. I think that's kind of my take on it. What do you guys think?
To kind of pivot just like for a second, you guys
Yeah.
can get back to this, but do we think he's going to get the full speech from someone else, or do we think he already got it? Like, do you think Uncle Ben already
Ooh.
gave him it's great power, or do you think maybe MJ gives it again? Like, I'm waiting for a moment where like he repeats what Norman said to someone. He's like, "Oh, it's I have to have respect." And he's like, "What? No, great power comes great responsibility," and it clicks
Yeah.
for him. Like, "Oh, you're
I
right."
think that would be a very good conversation for him to have with May. Now, that was one of my biggest issues with Spider-Man No Way Home, was that she was the surrogate for that, as she gave Peter the, with great power comes great responsibility kind of line before she died, which I didn't love. But I think in this context, it would work because maybe Peter goes to Aunt May and is like, hey, May, I've been lying to you. I am Spider-Man. I have this great power, and I need, no, Mr. Osborn is telling me I need to, garner respect with it or something like that. And she's like, hey, no, Peter, like, think about what your Uncle Ben said. With great power comes great responsibility, and maybe we even get a little bit of a flashback. So that is my idea of where it goes to. But Darth, what do you think?
I think you're right that it's interesting that we're getting, like, for want of a better word, the bastardized version first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because if he got it before, I feel like that when he gets that bit that I don't think I've seen, he would have just walked out the room, or even said to him, "Well, no, it's responsibility. I think you got the wrong R
Right.
there," you know. Um, so it's interesting whether, like, because there are different iterations of Peter Parker, as we know. Like, sometimes he bends to the wrong influence, sometimes he rises against the wrong influence, sometimes he has the right influence. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
depends on where you are. So it'd be interesting to see if he does it off of his own back. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, because his character, for the most part, unless it's in the extremes where he's a bad person, is always quite true. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So just because he hasn't had the initial kick, like, he's still that guy. So it
Mm-hmm.
might be that he does it, and then it shows everybody who he is through it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he just needs to learn that lesson for himself. Is yes, he's given, like you said, he's been given this twisted version of the speech that was supposed to give him that push to become Spider-Man originally. And I think, again, that's where that original disconnect with the show was for me. The fact that by killing Uncle Ben before Peter gets his powers, you miss out on the opportunity to, number one, have that with great power comes great responsibility speech, but also for him to feel like he had great power and that he did not take advantage of the responsibility that he was given to then save him. The fact that he was already dead when Peter when he got bit by the spider, that completely removes that from the equation. So I guess the other question is there going to be a scenario that happens where Peter has a responsibility to do something, but he ends up not, because maybe Norman is in his ear or Harry's in his ear, and they tell him, hey, you got to come back, you got to do this, you got to do that, or you got to preserve your identity or something along those lines, and he has a similar feeling from that he would have had if he if he had his powers before Uncle Ben died, if that makes sense. I kind of jumped through a few hoops to get there, but I feel like I got the idea out.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's good, definitely.
All
I'm
right.
I'm
Any
gonna agree with you.
Okay. Awesome. Any final thoughts here, either of you guys?
No, I think you covered most of it. Honestly, from
Okay.
I haven't seen it obviously, but I think you've got
Yeah.
Nice.
um very comprehensively. Well done.
I'll
Okay.
talk about it more next week when I can.
Yes, yeah.
Break it
Well,
down
I'm
a little bit more.
looking forward to talking about it more next week when you have a full voice. But yeah, Darth, also you gotta get on it. You gotta catch up before the finale. I think that would be that's my homework for you if you can.
I'm trying. I'm genuinely trying. It's not helping itself, honestly. Like
Yeah.
the most interesting thing about the animation so far was when Lonnie did the touchdown.
Yeah. Like I said, if you can get to like episode like 4 even, I think you'll be a lot more invested in it than you are right now. I think that's kind of what it took me to is that second week's worth of episodes, because it's 3-3-3-2, right? No, 2-3-3-2. Yeah, that's how it released. So that second week's worth of episodes, kind of right in the middle there, that's when it really kind of clicked for me, and I felt that connection with it. But with that being said, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is over for the week. It's about to be over next week. I think it is time for us to talk about what has been my favorite show, my obsession. Again, I got a new piece of merch this week. I'm wearing the Omni-Man hoodie. I think it's finally time for us to talk about this week's episode of I did
wasn't
it.
sure who was
Never gets
clicking it. I was like,
That never
hold
gets
off,
old.
let me hold off.
Like
Yeah,
the thing is, like we need to change it, the color for the right one each week now.
yeah. Oh, we should.
Change
We
it.
should. Yeah, it has been changing. I think what was this week? This was the white and red.
That was a week before.
Okay, I can't remember them.
This
What
might
was
have been
this
red
week?
and black or something.
Okay. But yeah, this week's episode of Invincible. What a fun episode. What a fitting episode
About
for the
time.
week too. Yeah. What a
That's what it
fitting
should have been
episode.
called.
It's about time. Yeah. Well, it actually was about time. in multiple ways. This felt like kind of 3 episodes in one. I think really is we had the, Mark and Eve kind of date episode in there, coinciding with Valentine's Day and everything like that. You have the continuation of the setup from the beginning of the season with the twin brothers that stole the Declaration of Independence. No, it was not Nicolas Cage. We end up going to the future, seeing a dark, twisted version of the future where Immortal became king of Earth because Mark ended up having to leave the planet, and he left Immortal in charge. And he decided to drop a ton of lore that if you read the comics or you know anything about the comics, you probably had your head spinning and you were like, oh my God, they're referencing all the things. If you are unfamiliar with the comics, you were like, what the heck is this guy rambling on about? What do you mean, Mark's not sick or he's off world or going on and doing all these other things? I think that was amazing. I think that was great. Again, more world building is incredible. And again, the further we get into the show, I feel like the more they're really embracing the comics as well. Like this has been like go through season 1. It's a lot of it shot for handful of issues and things like that. And the more we go, the more we do, the more we see ripped right off the pages, which is incredible. And then the other half of the episode here, after Mark got back from the future, after Mark and Eve have their, amazingly beautiful date, again, so fitting. So glad to finally see this pair. We have the continuation of the Alan and Nolan story, not really subplot anymore, becoming the main plot. And that is, we got our Viltrumite prison break, featuring Battle Beast. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I think that further emphasizes how great of a character Battle Beast is. I want to see more of him. But yeah, this episode was great. I kind of just really summarized everything. Darth, give me your thoughts.
Um, sorry, I was just eating a sweet. Just wow, about time, honestly. We've been waiting for this for God knows how long. The second they got locked up, because we know they could have broke out any minute.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was literally just Nolan being obstinate and just trying to be a martyr that was leading to them just staying there. Um, it was really cool seeing the young Viltrumites. I guess it's a Viltrumite thing where everybody has to have that mustache.
Yeah,
You know,
I think so. I think so. You
and
either have to have the
stenciled
mustache
so
or
perfectly.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
the mustache one.
yeah. I mean, in the comics and stuff like that, yeah, the mustache is a thing. So
No
for a
shit.
lot of
Oh wow.
Viltrumites, yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay,
Let me even see. I
that's
think.
hilarious.
Hold on. I think Khan.
Even Thaddeus or whatever his name has got one.
Yeah. Thetis has one. Conquest has one. Thrag.
Is
Yeah.
Conquest the
Thrag.
old man?
Yeah. Yeah. Thrag's got the mustache too. Thrag is somebody that we'll meet a lot later on, but.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Thrag's the Hitler stash in it, and then you've got
Yeah, kind of,
Conquest,
and he's got the
Freddie
like
Mercury
very
stash.
like nicely shaped buzz cut too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you got Freddie
Yeah.
Mercury in space.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then old Sam Lane. So yeah. Um, so yeah. It was really really cool. I like who the hell is that guy? That narrator, like that's driving me nuts.
No, I love
Like
that. I
who
love that,
is
and
this guy?
it's actually a comic thing too.
Yeah, I'm
It
not
is.
saying
Yeah.
like,
It's
oh, it's driving me crazy in a bad way. It's just it's so funny every time it
no.
comes.
It
I'm like,
is.
who is this guy?
It
Who
is. It's
is this
great.
guy?
It's great.
It's so funny. It's like, oh
And
my
we're gonna
God.
leave Mark and Eve to do their
Yeah,
thing while we check out in outer space with Alan the alien. So yeah,
literally
it's
the
fun.
same thing, like a whole
Yeah.
season apart.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Oh my God, seeing Alan all kicking some butt, Battle Beast just tearing through dudes, and I knew it was gonna turn on Alan the second he couldn't produce a Viltrumite.
Yeah.
Um.
Are you telling me there will be Viltrumites to kill? This pleases me.
I have to say now again, I feel bad because um, it's an amazing show and I
Mm-hmm.
love it. It's genuinely one of the best shows on TV. But um, even I'm starting to notice some of the animation stuff, right?
Mm,
Like the twins, um,
mm-hmm.
when they were running in the palace, it was literally a palette swap. Like they literally copy and pasted and changed the outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And the mouth animation was the exact same thing when they're running off
Mm,
from the robots, when Invincible was talking to the Immortal.
mm-hmm.
Uh, so didn't like that. So I have to point it out because we sit there just honoring the show, like just sit there glazing it the whole time, but it does have flaws.
It does.
You
It does. It's weird, right? So for every animation flaw, for every like, oh, you can tell it's just like a PNG that they moved across the screen, you have another scene like, with just the fight between Mark and Immortal when he just finally rips his head off, or the
Mm,
fight later on in the episode, like I said, with Battle Beast when he's tearing through the ship, when Nolan and Alan just do the dual punch on the Viltrumite's head and just pop it
oh
from the
yeah,
force in between, like
yeah,
again ripped right
yeah.
from a comic panel. It looked amazing, and it just that kind of animation is great. But then yes, like you are right, is there were some things in that future version of the world and everything like that you're right, is it did seem somewhat basic. It seemed somewhat barren, and I think maybe that was part of the design of it. That was part of the idea, but I do get that. I guess while we're on the topic of the future, though, too, I did find it really funny when they got there and Mark was like, "What do I do with my clothes?" And then you had him popping in from the portal, taking the clothes, and he's like, "What's wrong with that guy?" And then he became that guy at the end, and it was like, that's why. That's why.
See,
And then
this
yeah,
go on.
go for it.
No, go on. Okay, wait.
No, it gave us the very interesting moral dilemma though too. Is he wasn't gone for very long, but the moment he came back, obviously his demeanor changed and everything like that. He sat down with Eve and was like, "Am I a good person?" And that is the big, I guess, that's his villain right now for the season, is himself and the possibility that he could turn into his father. This idea of, is it okay? Is it right to kill your villains? Like, should you be doing that? And that is something that is definitely a big dilemma that Mark is going to have to continue to face this season. Even the creators have said that Mark's blue suit is basically his symbiote suit, right? This is kind of his darkness arc, is he has to come to terms with killing Angstrom Levy. He has to come to terms with the fact that now he's killed this future version of Immortal. He's become way more brutal, like when he killed the Multipols or when he's killing the Reanimin and things like that. And now he's about to have to fight in some Viltrumite war that is impending. So he knows that he's going to have to potentially kill more Viltrumites. Like if Anissa comes back, he has to be prepared to potentially kill her. And all of these things that are going on is a huge, dilemma for Mark. And especially, considering what happened with Oliver in the previous week's episode. And again, I don't want to go too deep into comic stuff, but again, this is very, very similar, and I see exactly where we're going here.
Right. The thing is, though, is if he resolves to killing villains that are a threat, he wouldn't be alive because he would have killed Darkwing too, and he would have died in the cave.
Yeah.
So that's not always the right answer. So,
right.
I think it becomes like it has to be like in an absolute situation, like with the Immortal. I mean, not Angstrom Levy, because that was insane. There was a clear point where he could have stopped. Like he was a mess on the floor.
Yeah, he
But
just
then
lost
again,
it there.
like you let him go, like he would just keep coming back. You know what I mean? So it's like, what do you do in that situation? Especially someone that has multiversal power that doesn't even have to be near you and can just summon a portal under your mother, and then boom, she's in a distant land that you'll never get access to or find her in. She's just gone now. So I don't know how I'd handle that, honestly. Probably the same. Who knows?
Yeah. What do you think about the morality of killing Immortal, even if it was a random future alternate version of him?
I think it was the right thing to do. Like, he didn't want to commit suicide, right? Or he didn't want to unalive himself, what you want to say, right? Which is fair.
Yeah.
And sees that as a coward's way out. Do you know what I mean? Which is an egregious statement, but whatever. So I would say that his hand was forced. Like life is not killing this man, and there's nobody on the planet that can. You know?
And I think in a way too is he almost presented the idea that Immortal was suffering more being alive than he would have if he were dead, and that was the whole point. Is they asked him there to do what nobody else can do to finally allow him to have peace, I guess is really the best way to put that.
Yeah.
So Darren, what did you think of this episode?
I mean, it was
Very
a very
briefly.
good episode. I don't know if I can fully go into my full thoughts, but like I feel like killing Immortal. I mean, like that, like in this scenario, it's like killing Hitler. Like he killed thousands of people. Like he enslaved the Earth, right? So like I would have, again, I'm not in that situation. He probably has a better moral compass than me. But I was like, yeah, you enslaved the Earth. Yeah, I'm gonna kill you. Like I feel like he shouldn't have any remorse.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have some, but like, I think it's fine. Like it's totally okay. Whatever. But like you said, that's one more person on his list that he has technically killed. And that's gonna put a weight on him.
Yeah. Even if technically two, Mark caused this problem himself, right? Because Immortal said is that future version of Mark ended up putting Immortal in charge of the Earth. So if he hadn't have done that, maybe he wouldn't be in that scenario. So then that's also something like we're changing the timeline now. What kind of ripple effects does that have? We
I was
haven't
I
really
was gonna say,
addressed that as much, and I know that they don't do a ton with time travel, but we're already kind of messing with the timeline a bit. Like we had future Eve tell Mark about something, to then go tell present version of her, and then now they've, sped up a thing that may or may not have happened if they hadn't interfered with the timeline. And now that Mark has seen what a future version of Immortal can turn into, does that mean that Mark will be more on edge? And if Immortal starts, going down a path like that, would he just kill him outright to then prevent that from happening? How does that affect the world? That sort of thing. I think that those are very big ideas, and again, very interesting, ideas that could potentially be explored.
the thing is, one, I think it should soften him more than harden him as anything. I understand that like it should resolve him in that there are consequences to your actions, and like unless like the thing is like this version of Mark has been given the biggest helping hand in terms of time travel and um things dictating his actions and so on, right? Like with Adam Eve and this and Christ knows what else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then like his character having to be something, right? Because like one, is this the first time this loop has happened? Two,
Mm.
if it is the first time, how different is his character? Um, like being the person on Biltram to now, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
it isn't, um, how would his character be changed from it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because barring something like needing to happen, it could be that he just doesn't put him there. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But then like if for example like he decides from that moment on to be a certain kind of hero, dude, hey, um decides to be a certain kind of hero,
Yeah.
um then he might have to let that happen. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah, I
Like a
get you.
cause
I
and
get
effect thing.
right is, can we really change the future? Because if we do change the future, then technically Mark won't have that experience of going to the future and going through that, and then that wouldn't make him want to change the. Yeah, it's interesting. The only workaround to that is that maybe it's not really time travel and it's more so interdimensional travel, like he did with Angstrom Levy. And this is
Mm,
just an alternate version of Earth that has gone through this thing. And that now, even if it was supposed to be our Earth, that is, I guess, technically like Endgame style time travel, right? Is
mm,
a Earth similar to your own, but you've now created like a branched timeline or a branched universe because
mm.
you've changed something. So I think that that's an interesting idea.
And that
Uh,
theory would make sense because that Mark didn't seem as good as our Mark, and we've seen in every other multiverse,
mm-hmm.
Mark has been evil or Mark has been bad, right?
Right, right,
So that might make sense.
Well, to be fair,
right.
this
A
one just
more,
put him in charge and went off planet. He could just be like middle of the road. He could just be apathetic at this point.
yeah, yeah. It could be Mohawk Mark.
I will see. I did see something in a YouTube short that feels like a little bit spoilery,
Yeah.
but not too spoilery. Like it's just
Which is why, Darren, I'm not really going to answer this question. I'm just going to say read Invincible Compendium 2. That's all I'm
let's
going to
just say
say.
there was some interesting upgrades to the Reaniman,
Mm.
which I was fascinated by.
The reanimated story is
Fascinated by
actually
it.
it's actually very different in the comics. Like they streamlined it so much for the show, but it happened so much more spread out. Like I'm trying to think the actual events with the that we saw back in season 1 at the college and stuff like that, like stopping DA Sinclair and stuff like that. I don't think that happens in the comics until after Mark kills Angstrom Levy. Wherein this happens like midway through season 1 in the actual show, which is interesting. But again, I do like the idea or the way that they're kind of streamlining a lot of these comic stories, because it can be very much so all over the place and feels somewhat disjointed and disconnected. But the way that it's been streamlined here is much, much better. Jonathan, did the future change, or is it going to change now that Mark knows what happens? Yeah, we kind of talked about that. But I think that was kind of his idea when he was talking to Eve, is they were like, hey, you're not going to become that version of yourself that leaves Immortal in charge and allows him to go crazy and to go mad, because now you've seen what happens. But again, I think
Right.
that the larger question is, though, is that really the future, or is that an alternate dimension? Is that another Mark? Is this somewhat possibly spoilery, but is this something put into motion by a potential threat in the future? Because we still have the idea, too, of who was spying on the Graysons. That device wasn't Cecil's. It
looked
wasn't
like
from the GDA. And we got to see and hear a guy in a chair. Darren and I kind of talked about it the last time. I don't want to spoil anything, but again, I'm going to leave that there and say there's something going on with whoever was spying on them that is leading to a very big comic book arc, one of my favorite arcs in the comics, that again, I don't know if we're going to see it this season, but it's something that we're definitely leading to with a lot of this multiversal stuff that we've already seen.
No idea.
Again, I'm being very vague on purpose. Do we
Thank
think
God.
we'll have a big do we think we'll have a big bad this season? Yes.
The Ultramarines.
But no. I think, again, in the most non-spoilery way possible, I think Mark is his own villain this season. That's all I'm gonna.
That's not unspoilery. That's very on the.
No, I think no, the way that he's acting, I think that again, that is the fact. I think that is the villain. Is Invincible. His black and blue suit. He is the villain for himself right now, because it's a mental villain. Yes, we could potentially see one of a few different storylines pop up this season, but I think right now
my whole thing as well.
Yeah.
Is just because he left the planet to take care of like Butchermates. That, like, if anything, that could have been the fact that he cemented not to kill unless like absolutely necessary, right? So it could just be that he went off to go lead people as opposed to kill everyone. Do you know what I mean? And thought, oh, who better than the Immortal to lead in my stead? Because like he was supposed to be like Abe Lincoln or some shit, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he's not
why
going
not
to put
give him another
he's
go
not gonna,
around?
He's not going to put Robot in charge, right? Comic readers, you'll know.
Cecil in charge and just destroys the world.
Oh god. Yeah. We actually didn't get a ton of Cecil this week, and I didn't realize it until the end, but we didn't get any Oliver either, which I was kind of sad about.
Or Debbie.
But
right? We got a little bit of Debbie.
Yeah, a little bit at the end. That was actually a funny scene.
I'm gonna be honest,
funny little tag.
Not 100% sold on Oliver. Not his biggest
Really?
And at the moment, and not just because like he killed the Mauler twins, who I goddamn love. Okay, like they are classic, and I love them. Honestly, they every time they come on the show, they just steal it. They just steal it.
Well, he stole their lives.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm holding a grudge.
Yeah, I think again, Oliver plays into that moral dilemma. We brought it up last week, but that again, the difference between comic and show, with Oliver talking about, it's okay to kill people, that sort of thing. Do you ever think that Dad was right? And the difference between the show and the comic is, in the comics, Mark says sometimes. In the show, he doesn't say anything. But do we still think that after this week, after what we are speculating on going forward, do you still think, though, that the show version of Mark believes that to an extent? Does he think that Nolan is right from a certain point of view?
I think he thinks sometimes. I think the look he gave,
Mm-hmm.
like, said it without saying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as you say, I think this episode sealed it.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
answered that question very well.
Yeah. I really do.
Because
too.
again, he made the decision and then had to question afterwards if he's still a good person for making that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So like he
Right.
wanted validation in feeling right for it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
he asked Eve of
yeah.
all people.
Yeah. And I think that too further solidifies their connection as well. The fact that no matter what Mark goes through, like, Eve is going to be there for him, and she completely understands the life and what comes with the territory, and the fact that they're going to have to make tough decisions, and all of that. And again, this was their second first date, and it got interrupted by some time travel shenanigans, but they still had a great time, and that sort of thing. And again, it really solidifies why this was kind of the end game from the beginning. Again, if you know the comics, it was going to be. But as much of it,
Like
a
he went
slow
about it
burn.
the right way there.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he did. He
It just
did.
shows that he's right over Cecil. Do you know what I mean? Because Cecil like wants to save the world by like any means necessary, as does Mark, but only when
Hmm.
pushed to those means. Like Cecil takes like super preemptive measures to
Right.
do that, which is creepy and wrong.
Hmm. But I guess technically Cecil's argument to that would be, well, Mark, you allow things to sometimes get really out of hand, like
Yeah.
destroying the entire city of Chicago. If we had those, countermeasures in play, maybe Omni-Man wouldn't have destroyed an entire city.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing those things, to keep you from destroying a city. What if you destroy a whole
Yeah,
country, a continent?
but
You could destroy
you're gonna have
destroy
to
the whole
down
planet.
every. You got to either ask the all the strong people you're afraid of to
Hmm.
subjugate, or like down every one of them and then rush them into the ICU for surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a very effective plan, Cecil.
But I would even argue this episode kind of, in my opinion, proved Cecil's point, because he did attack Cecil again this week.
Yes.
Just because
Yes.
he disagreed with him.
Yep.
And it's like, if
And
he
he
didn't
was
have
more
that button,
aggressive.
if he didn't have that button, there's nothing he could have done. He couldn't have done to stop him.
Yeah.
No, but it proves my point, right? And this is where I want flowers, because I said
I was gonna say,
put it in
I did think.
infrastructure.
Yep. I thought about you the moment it happened.
Thank you. Right? This is exactly why you don't put it in people's brains, for God's sake.
Yeah. I mean, that would be good preparation for a potential incoming Viltrumite war, is to just put giant sirens with that frequency to take them out. But we'll have to
Just
see.
everywhere.
We'll have to see. Or
Put
just
them in
a
monuments,
big
for God's sake. Mount
a
Rushmore.
big
You know what I
a
mean?
big giant JBL speaker on top of planet Earth, and just hit them before they even get onto the surface of the planet.
Like I know, like couldn't Doc Seismic like hit that frequency as well? Like if he gets given it.
Yeah, I can't remember. And that was the frequency from the sea creature in season 2,
Yeah.
or from the Atlantean creature. I don't believe Seismic hit that frequency. I could
No,
be
but
wrong.
could he? But if he
Oh,
was
could
given
he?
like could he like tune it into his gauntlets and it'd be there like
Maybe.
bap, bap.
Maybe. Yeah, and so what happened to Doc Seismic after he got defeated at the beginning of the season? I wouldn't put it past
Like,
Cecil to have
put it
locked
in
him
robot.
up. That's an
Robot
idea.
should be able to blast that out of his speakers.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's an idea. That's a good one, actually. Do we have anything else on this week's episode? If not, I do have a little teaser for episode 5 pulled up
Did
here
you
that we
guys
can watch.
talk about the like Omni-Man Alan stuff yet, or?
Yeah, we did briefly.
No.
We
Okay.
did briefly.
Not
yeah.
really. Not much. Just not much.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel
So-
about there being only 50 Veltramites, like pure Veltramites left?
That is a big thing. And that really sets up for, again, where we could potentially be heading in the future. I think that's gonna cause potentially a split as far as, is it right to want to, for a lack of a better term, eradicate the rest of this, race of people?
Jeez.
Yes, they are a, conquering warrior type of people, but, are do all the Viltrumites, deserve to, become, I guess, a casualty of this war? Or is there a potential for Viltrum and Viltrumites to flourish in a different way going forward? I guess that's a big question.
You know what? Like I could like okay. So one, this isn't a surprise.
Yeah.
Right? Like given the introduction to the Viltrumites in season 1, absolute no surprise at all. Right? They literally had to stop it and go, okay, guys, cool it down, everybody. Come on. Like we're piling up now. Okay, come on. Let's just pick some people in charge and move on. My other thing is I know one person has, like, again, without spoiling too much, I know one person has a plan upon learning upon another person's situation
Yep.
and thinking, but like my whole thing is, like, if they had like any brains attached to like the size of their goddamn muscles, right? The rate of multiversal travel, you could just start a multiversal agency. Do you know what I mean? Like, just cross-section multiversal Viltrumites, hop them over to your universe, have some babies, increase your population. Do you know what I mean? And just start spreading the love everywhere. You wouldn't have to have like this whole issue.
I'm going to not say too much.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say too much, but yes, it's a good idea. To expand the population, I think. Yeah, I think that's a good route to go down. But while we're back on the topic though of them, I think something that we kind of skimmed over a little bit was the moral dilemma as well that Nolan was going through. That, Alan wanted to break him out from the beginning, and Nolan kept saying, no, I deserve this. I'm paying for my crimes, that sort of thing. Isn't it such a crazy and incredible piece of character development just from the end of season 1 to now where we are in the middle of season 3, where Nolan recognizes that he wronged his son and his wife and the entire planet that he was supposed to be protecting. He realizes what he did was wrong, and he thinks that the only way to pay for that crime is to go through with that execution. I think that is big development for him, and really shows the change in Omni-Man, and I love it. I really do.
See, this is the thing. I've been like rewatching parts of season 1, and I don't think it's that much of a big change, right? Because the second that Mark was talking about like getting his powers and like being excited and everything like that, the fear and the not really feared, like the sadness he showed in that moment, that he knew that like this life is now over, and then
Mm.
later on he was like, oh, I really wish he didn't get his powers, you know, like he never wanted this. He wanted to just
Yeah.
keep riding it out, and I think he's been changing slowly over the whole time of being a father and being a hero.
Yeah.
And I think it was only because of what he knew would be coming if
Hmm.
he didn't. Do you know what I mean? That forced his hand. Because like the fight between him and Mark in season 1 was goddamn intense. But the way he left,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like he didn't have the full conviction that he would have had when he landed
Hmm.
for that argument. Do you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Yeah, it definitely showed that he was changed by living on Earth.
Hmm.
Um, but if it wasn't for what Mark said right at the very end of their fight, I mean, he would have gone through with it. You know, if they didn't have that moment of, what will you have after 500 years? I'll still have you, Dad. Like if he didn't
Yeah.
say that, like it would have been,
Oh,
game
yeah,
game
but
over.
yeah, but the fact that he could be talked down, do
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right. Right. It shows that he
Even
was
at all.
not. Yeah. Yeah, it shows that he was not as much of a, hardened soldier, I guess, as
Yeah,
he believed he was. Um,
exactly. Yeah. Um, so another thing is then, given his lifespan,
yeah.
much, um, how much heroing does he have to do to outweigh all of the death and destruction and just lives that he's obliterated?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was on Earth for what, 20 years, maybe maximum.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I would say he owes the Earth at least another 20
Minimum.
minimum. But
Yeah.
I think again, it depends on, are you a pure blooded Viltrumite? Or, what is your Viltrumite heritage, that sort of thing, as far as how long you'll actually live. Like, I think Mark and Nolan and, they could live for literally thousands of years. Um, Oliver, that's a different story. Uh, Once he gets to a certain age, it will slow down because of his Viltrumite DNA and everything like that. But I would say maybe if, Mark and Nolan can live for a few thousand years, Oliver could maybe live for, a few hundred years. I think that's probably the difference there
Mm,
between them. But still, think about living a few hundred years for a species that is only supposed to live, what, 9 months or a year?
mm,
It's kind of crazy.
that's
Uh,
insane. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But no,
Wow.
I really did love that part of the episode though. Is the Alan and Nolan prison break, the camaraderie that they ended up, resulting in, the fact that throughout those little snippets that we were getting leading up to this episode, that Alan was doing all the talking and really just wanted to be friends with. He basically just wanted to be friends with Nolan to recruit him to the, to the cause and everything like that. But once push came to shove, Nolan was there to, stand behind his new friend, and now they are, going to work together to bring down the evil reign of the Viltrumites. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited. Any final thoughts before I pull up this teaser, and then I think we're gonna wrap it up pretty shortly here.
Um. Okay. So another
Yeah,
question I have
yeah,
is,
yeah.
when was the 50 count, right? Because that's what Nolan said, and he hadn't been home for a minute. And
Right.
then there was like two or three lost on the fight with like the not the Thraxians, what his Oliver's people are called.
Yeah.
Um, and then another two lost today.
Hmm.
Um, like where are we on the count? And then
Right.
like
And
not
then does
all of
that
them are bad.
include? Right. And
Thetis.
does that include? Yeah, Thetis. That is actually with the coalition now. Do they know he's actually alive?
Yeah,
Does that
and
include? Does that include
Nolan.
Mark because of I guess the mesh between the Viltrumite and human DNA, the fact that they're so close, is Mark for all intents and purposes a pure-blooded Viltrumite at this point?
I would say no.
Okay.
I would say he wouldn't count. Like the
Okay.
second it's not like Viltrumite or Viltrumite,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
then I would say like no.
Yeah. Do you think Mark
That's
still
gotta
has
be how it's on 50.
Yeah. I was gonna say, is because of that fact though, does he have the potential to even come close power level wise to real, like, full-blooded Viltrumites? Like, obviously, the power difference between him and his father is immense. I would say the power difference between him and every other Viltrumite he's faced up to this point has been very immense, and that has been kind of his whole thing, is trying to, strengthen himself to be able to actually take them down. I think that it's going to be very interesting, though, to see the next time Mark actually is able to come across another Viltrumite and fight them. I think that is going to be a really interesting matchup. And I think I'm also ready for Oliver to kind of get his stuff rocked a little bit and show him how much weaker he actually is than a real Viltrumite. I think that would be an interesting culture shock for him to show him.
Mark's gonna do better though.
Oh yeah,
he was still holding his own like last season, and he's got 160% stronger than he was then.
Yeah.
So
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, I think he's gonna take a few of them to school.
Nice.
Which would be great.
Nice. Darren, you got anything else for us before I pull up this teaser?
I do think it's interesting, the parallels to the Nolan stuff, to the stuff we are in, with the Mark stuff, because I do think this idea of redemption and can you be redeemed from your crimes, I think Mark is going to have to face that head on when his father comes back and is like, hey, Mark, I'm sorry, let me help you. Because I think Mark is going to have to make a decision of, was Cecil right? Or do I have to put that same moral test against my father?
Right.
And how will Oliver react when I say no? Or how will Debbie react if I say yes? How will I be seen as a hero to the world if I team up with my father again? And killed hundreds of thousands of people. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I think that if and when Nolan finally makes his way back to Earth, that is going to be massive. I don't know if that's going to happen before or after the Viltrumite War, though. I'm thinking we're going to have our war first. And then he'll maybe eventually find his way back home. And I'm just waiting to see how they handle that reunion when he gets back home. I think that the interaction that I'm the most looking forward to seeing is how he interacts with Debbie when they get back. I think that is going to be the biggest and the most telling too, to really show how much he's changed, if at all. Is he going to say the same sort of things? Like, is he going to lie about things, or is he going to be 100% truthful from that point on? I think that that's going to be the biggest tell as far as, did this journey really change things for him?
Well, how long is the war going to go on for if he's not going to make it home until after? Like, is Debbie even going to still be alive?
I mean, I would assume so. Again,
like Viltrumite's having a war. You think? I know there's only 50 of them, but like, as old as they live, they could drag that shit out.
The Viltrumite War, yes, it sounds big, but it's broken up into parts. Let's just say that. It's broken up into parts. It's not just like
There's skirmishes. It's like different...
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and like, I think at a point you would almost call it like a Viltrumite Cold War. So, yeah. Again, it's all yeah. Dude, I found a video this week. It was somebody that went through and read all of the Invincible compendiums within like a week. And I've just been like going back and forth watching like just little snippets of the video just to like see how things play out from the actual comic perspective, and I've been loving it. And it's gonna convince me to drop the $150 to get all three of them at some point.
150.
Yeah, I think they're like $50 a piece. They're like big, thick books. It's like 40, 50 issues per compendium. So it's a yeah, so they compiled all the single issues into one big like stack book, and it's 3 of them. So it's yeah.
And they're still going.
There are the main story has ended, but yeah, there are some new Invincible
Spin-offs.
comics coming out.
Yeah.
There's a Battle Beast one coming out pretty soon here actually. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know the end game then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do we
Yeah.
think the show will go beyond that? Or do you think they'll go the comics route and then do spin-offs and stuff like that?
That's interesting because I think that, again, without spoilers, I think the comics do go off the rails at a point and get very weird. They end at a really good point, but I think there's, I would say the third compendium is a little wacky. I'd be hard pressed to say if they really did all of that stuff in the show. However, I think we're going to get a variation of it. I think by the end of the show, whether or not we take the same road as the comics, we're going to get to the same destination. I think that's the best way that I'll put it. Is I think I think really after this season, even I think season 4 onwards, we could deviate from the comics quite vastly. Just because again, we're coming up on a lot of really some very interesting, some very weird story choices. Not that they're bad by any means, but just things that almost feel like they wouldn't fit the feel and the theme of the show that they've presented to us thus far.
Right. And how far into the books are we? Like, are we through like the first book?
Yeah, so we're in the second compendium. We're about I think if you were to visualize it, we're about halfway through the second book, or about maybe a third to a half, which makes sense as to why they're saying about 7 to 10 seasons.
Yeah, I've heard them say 7 seasons, but I have wondered if it was
math works for you.
Yeah, so if we did 3 seasons to get through the first half, and we condensed a lot of that first book, got smushed down quite a bit. There's a ton of extra stuff that happens, like content-wise. I think Compendium 2 definitely has more than Compendium 1, and Compendium 3 has more than the first 2, maybe even combined, as far as like different storylines and stuff go. So yes,
we can get 7 more than at this rate.
Yeah, so think about it like with Black Ops 6 Zombies right now, right? So the earlier rounds, you get through them very, very quickly, but those later rounds, it takes like 10, 15 minutes sometimes to get through like round 105 or something like that. So I think as the story continues, it's going to take longer for us to get through certain things and certain storylines, again, depending on how much they go into things. Like there is a storyline, not going to say who's involved, but a storyline that takes place over 700 years in the comics. So I don't know how they're going to address that. Like, yeah, it could be done in one episode if they really wanted to, but it could also be done over an entire season. It could be its own spinoff if they wanted it to be. They could go that in depth with it. And again, I'll leave that there as some food for thought. Darren, anything else? Darth, anything else?
Nope, go for it.
Okay.
No, blow my brain enough.
All right. Present, share screen, Invincible. Before we start, somebody please tell me what this character's name is, because I
Titan.
forget and it's been bugging me the whole day.
Titan.
Titan. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Thank you.
I love Titan.
3, 2, 1. Let's do this.
You ready to go? What happened between us last time was nothing personal. Didn't mean for it to get that rough for you.
Don't even think about it.
So,
Right. Okay,
Just a
so we're
little
getting the
tease.
other side of the jailbreak, right? Because I knew that last week wasn't the whole side of it. Like there was no way. Like Titan, like with the way
Yeah.
he worked last episode, like there was no way that was just gonna be the end of it. Like he's too
Yeah.
clever for that. And it
I hope
was
we
all
get
to
some
out
more.
multiple.
Yeah. I hope we get some more background on Battle Beast as to how he ended up on the Viltrumite ship as well. I
Yeah.
think hopefully we get that. I think that would be very cool for them to explore. So, funny thing, people have been debating over the gloves, whether they like the fingerless gloves or the full finger gloves. I guess there was some reference in the comics that like Mark didn't like one version of the glove or something like that, and that's why they changed it.
Hypothetically, couldn't people like track down who he is by his
Yeah,
like, fingerprints
with the
or whatever?
fingerprints. Yeah. This is very cool. Getting a whole dragon guy in here. But yeah, so
You know who that
this
or
is
is it a
the
new person?
this is, I believe, the guy that we met two episodes ago. They came to talk to Titan, I believe. I think he just turned.
Well,
Doesn't he turn into a dragon? I can't remember what the character's name is.
Interesting.
One that threatened him from like the syndicate or whatever.
Yeah, that was like, hey, break out multi-ball or we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
So I think that is the problem that is going on right now. That suit is so good. I love that suit. I think whether it's a hot take or not, I think the black and blue suit's better than the blue and yellow. But that's just me.
It is a sick suit.
Yeah. Okay, I will I will say we were talking about how good or bad the animation is. Look at Adam Eve here. She looks like a anime character from a completely different thing right now, doesn't she? That's kind of funny though.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's like
big
Gwen from Ben 10 a little bit.
yeah.
I love that she's in a power suit. That's sick.
Yeah, I do love that. I do really like that. And then
Yeah.
team up of the two
like-
of them.
I like the season is the like Invincible Eve Power Hour season.
Yeah.
It's just them working
Yeah.
together all season, which is sick.
Oh yeah. And
On the mobile game, it's them two like doing a similar pose, except she's not in a power suit.
Oh, I've actually
It
been
used to be
playing.
just him.
I've been playing that game a lot recently, actually. I've been really enjoying
a new
it.
account after spending so much money.
Oh,
I've got a new phone, and I'm like,
oh no.
I had like a red, few star Omni Man.
Oh wow.
Red. I was nearly white. Mauler twin.
Mhm.
Like I was making moves on that game. Invincible was red 1 star, 2 star. Like I was doing
Jeez.
bits.
Yeah, I just got my first Omni Man today because I saw they actually posted like a little promotion where you just like go put in a code from the Invincible site and you get Alan and Omni Man for free.
What's
Which is
the
really
like?
cool.
What's the game's like template? Is it like Mortal
So-
Kombat or is it like...
No, so it's very mobile gamey. So you get a team of 5, and then your team of 5 goes up against another team of 5.
Gotcha.
And they have abilities and stuff like that. And it's one of those games that you can literally let run on its own. Like you really don't have to do anything other than set your team and position your characters properly.
It's like
and
a
just-
Marvel Strike Force kind of.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then you just got to get resources. It's resource farming and, upgrading your characters to the highest level that they can be at. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to just pass the time. I've been doing it while I've been, doing my cardio or just like waiting for things. So it's been pretty fun. But yeah, team up here looks amazing. I can't wait to see when we really get to fully explore the depths and lengths. Yeah, get that, get that, and anybody here or anybody in the chat wants to add me, Toxic Taz on the game as well. Yeah. But yeah, seeing the full extent of Eve's powers, I think we're in for something really special when we see exactly what she can do with them, as she learns more about her abilities. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Any final thoughts from that teaser? Any speculation? Any theories for next week's episode?
Just sad we only have 4 left already.
Don't
We're
remind
already
me.
halfway through.
Don't remind me. I'm gonna cry. Don't remind me that we're almost we're already halfway through. Oh man, this show's so good. This show's so
Yeah.
good. I'm so glad that I caught up when I did. It's been a fun ride. It has been such a fun ride. And I can't wait to see where we go in the rest of this season. Again, I think already from the first 4 episodes, this season has the potential to be the best. I know I kind of said my piece about season 2 already. I love it, but it's not as good as season 1. I still think season 1 is the best season, but if we continue to keep going in this, direction with this momentum, I think again season 3 could end up being the best season of the show. So, with that being said, final thoughts from any of you guys? Do you have anything from, anything that we've gone over? Anybody in chat have any questions or any comments, concerns before we end up wrapping things up here?
No, you've done amazing.
All right. Well, with that being said, I think that brings us to the end of our time here tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys all in chat as well. I'll do the thing that Darren does. Where can people find you, Darth?
On YouTube at Darth Bunyan. I just put up a new short, so go check it out.
Yes. And if you guys enjoyed the ramblings of myself, you can find me here, youtube.com/ToxicTaz. Hopefully going to have some new fun content out soon. Darren, any further streams this week, or are we still taking a break with the...
Yeah, I mean, pipeline this week is to be determined. It was going to be Captain America this week, but still have not seen Captain America. I have not been out of the house too much. So I will let you know in a couple days. But After Credits should still be on next week, I assume. Even if it's just you two again, I guess you guys can just ramble it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a shout out to both of you two for keeping the ground running.
Thank you.
You guys are, you guys both do your own streams and your own content. So it's, you guys are obviously so great on your own. I was like, you guys can totally just pick up where I faltered this week. So, yeah, thank you.
I appreciate that.
Still a fun time.
Yes. But yeah, with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here. It was a great stream. We will catch you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And until next time, guys, it's been Taz and Darth and Darren, and we will see you guys in the next live stream.